You know the boring thing about watching pornography? If it's 30 minutes, you're gonna watch the first 2 seconds. Because the other 2 minutes you are busy doing this. And I'm not even downloading, I'm streaming. You know, because I knew Renka download Apple Nalo Tora phone and so that day I basically masturbated the whole night. Mara that day was the beginning of me seeing where this thing is wrong. And I was doing grade 11. That was the start of me seeing or no. Pila, this thing is killing me, you know. People who are addicted to pornography suffer from depression. Not severe depression, but they're depressed.
One thing about the mind is that it's more of an open bucket. A bucket will take anything, whether you pour soil into it, whether you pour water into it. So is your mind. It's more like a bucket. And more like computer programming. The mind can also be reprogrammed. What I mean about this is that the mind, how the mind is supposed to be, it can be rearranged into something that is not supposed to be. So in this age, things like social media, which is one of the major propaganda machines, are used to reprogram the mind and how people are supposed to think. In the 1980s, there was a man named Ted Bundy. If you know more about serial killers, the likes of Richard Kuklinski, the likes of Jeffrey Dahmer, then you will know a man named Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was a notorious serial killer in the United States, and he was sentenced to death in the 1980s. In 1989, he was executed in the Florida State Prison. But before he died, he requested an interview, and one of the things that he warned everyone about was pornography.
My experience with, I say pornography generally, but with pornography that deals on a violent level with the sexuality, is that once you become addicted to it, and I look at this as a kind of addiction, like an addiction, you keep craving something which is harder, something which gives you a greater sense of excitement, until you reach the point where the pornography only goes so far. But I've lived in prison for a long time now, and I've met a lot of men who were motivated to commit violence just like me. And without exception, every one of them was deeply involved in pornography, without question, without exception, deeply influenced and consumed by an addiction to pornography. There's no question about it. The FBI's own study on serial homicide shows that the most common interest among serial killers is pornography.
Now, one of the things he also mentions is that he grew up pretty much as a normal kid. He had a beautiful home, beautiful parents, loving siblings, and his life took a turnaround when he came across pornographic material.
The first age of first exposure of pornography sometimes is 8 or 9 years old. So now you've got this 8-year-old brain who's not prepared to take those images in, doesn't even know what they're looking at. Young boys and young girls, it's rewiring their brain, and it's desensitizing, and it's normalizing, and maybe glamorizing sexual abuse.
So imagine this, when you started smoking, you started with a cigarette, and you needed something stronger, you went to weed. You needed something stronger, you had to jump to cocaine. And with cocaine, it felt good, you began to depend on it. But the problem with that is your body has been altered. Your brain has been altered. You do not look at sex the way a normal human being looks at sex. A pastor by the name of Ravi Zacharias once said that pornography creates a thirst that no water can quench.
Take the whole issue of pornography today, making its billions with supposedly the most beautiful human beings on the face of the earth, stirring up within you the ugliest passions you can ever have. Passions that no human being can ever fulfill. No human being can ever fulfill. because it takes away the possibility of the impact of a person and puts in its place a feeling, a desire as the supreme pursuit to which you go, which no person can ultimately satisfy. That's what the Bible talks about. Lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, pride of life. Jesus describes your heart and mind perfectly when he says the heart is sinful and desperately wicked above all things.
So there you have it. After all the 3 episodes, we now know that pornography desensitizes us. We now know that we might be entertaining things like rape going on camera. We now know that there's human trafficking going on behind the scenes. And we also know that our minds are being reprogrammed by these pornographic materials. So now that we have come to the conclusion of this whole program, let's come to the real issue. There's a lot of people who came to my inbox asking for help. Some I could help, some I couldn't. But my free piece of advice is that if you know you are deep in pornography, just know that it is not innocent what you're doing. Because firstly, you are messing up your own brain, your own body, your own sexual desire. Secondly, you are supporting human trafficking. So the best decision you might take at this moment is to quit watching the thing. A small tip I could give you is that seek God. I'm not talking about going to church. I'm not talking about belonging to a church. That is important, but I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about seeking Christ in your secret place. Jesus says that come as you are, meaning that come with your pornographic addiction, with all the passions that you cannot control, come with them, and He will free you from them. When you go to a shower, you do not bath first, but you go with all the dirt that you have, and then the shower washes you. Even with Christ, it's like that. You come with all your passions. You come with that pornography addiction, and He will free you from it. Study the Word, pray more, build a relationship with Christ. The more you get closer to Christ, the more this filthy addiction falls away from you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.
No proper education, no proper medication, and you caught up in the system. And she's only 16, can you get a vaccine for the pain that she's feeling? And she's willing to live, but the passion is gone. Hold her in my hands, cause the queen is just born.
How can she reign while the leaders are wrong?